A sunshine start at Wembley, the Charity Shield meeting of the champions and the cup holders, Manchester United and Arsenal, with United introducing their new record buy. Roy Keane signed from Nottingham Forest for £3.75 million. It was a spectacular start too. And a more poignant occasion than we realised at the time.
You kick off the season as champions. What do you see as the requirements for Manchester United?
Hunger. Just plain hunger. Determination to succeed. And if I've got that, the players have a great chance.
The first goal chance taken was at the Dell by Peter Beagrie of Everton. A jump start to the now called Premiership with 10 minutes gone. The opening day also saw a hat-trick by Mick Quinn for Coventry at Arsenal, who would concede only 12 more at home the whole season. Newcastle were back in the big time, the Toon Army as welcome as Kevin Keegan. Ironically, the previous manager provided the first day opposition, Ozzy Ardiles, the new boss at troubled Tottenham. Spurs spoiled the party, with Teddy Sheringham suggesting a value which would become increasingly clear. Glenn Hoddle, one of the former greats at Tottenham, was beginning a new career as the player-manager of Chelsea, full of ideas learned in France. Aston Villa tried a not unfamiliar Italian theme. Some were not sure. Others seemed inspired. The champions began in all-conquering style at Norwich, the scoring roles played by the young Giggs and the not-so-old Robson. But the opening Wednesday night with the new boys Swindon provided the most dramatic pictures. Manager John Gorman's reaction to Oldham's 89th minute winner. In a staggering 4-0 win at Leeds, Norwich City's Jeremy Goss began a more successful habit.
Robbins coming near post now, two further back. Can he pick out Jeremy Goss? Oh, that's a fantastic goal by Norwich City. That is absolutely outstanding.
Like Swindon, Newcastle lost their first two games, and when Ryan Giggs caught their goalkeeper peeking through the wall, a third defeat seemed likely. Instead, the match at Old Trafford launched Newcastle's season. A 1-1 draw, the start of a rich vein of coal. Graham Souness's Liverpool led the first table with 3 wins. The new combatant, Neil Ruddock, much to the fore. Everton and Ipswich matched them. But with 2 goals by Lee Sharp in Game 4 against Aston Villa, the champions took over. It was early days, of course, but across Manchester, at City, impatience was rife. 1 point from 4 games led chairman Peter Swales, who'd lost 10 managers in not quite 20 years, to appoint a general manager, journalist John Maddock, who very quickly broke the news to an 11th, Peter Reid.
The chairman decided to bring somebody new in. I only worked with him for 6 days, so it's a bit difficult for me to comment on how good he's going to be for Man City, but, I mean, 6 days I was gone.
The fans, who had no doubt where the real blame lay, were asked to welcome a new man just 24 hours later. Brian Horton, once the captain of a Luton side which put City down, was now the choice to lift them up. Arsenal's Ian Wright looked favourite for an England start. And Alan Shearer came back from injury in familiar fashion. The month ended with no 100% records and 4 points dividing the top 10. The bottom three, the fancied Sheffield Wednesday among them, all waited for their first win. In the words of songwriter Sammy Khan, you either have or you haven't got style. And if you have, it sticks out a mile.
Pallister, all good running by Keane. He's got away from Kilberg. Karine improvising. Cantona with the keeper out of his goal. Oh, it's hit the bar! Fantastic! Oh, who needs Pele?
But that day, September the 11th, Manchester United lost for the first time.
Clark. Oh, it's come back off the goalkeeper. Peacock follows up, and Chelsea take the lead.
The same day, at Southampton, a rather longer run came to an end. Leeds won away for the first time for 17 months. At Main Road, the chant continued, led by a local vicar. And the choice of his flock was clear. On the field, things were improving. At Anfield, Liverpool-born Mike Newell gave victory to Blackburn. Kenny Dalglish's reaction left no need for the interpretation of words. And with the advantage of a replay, Neil Ruddock would probably see why the FA did not accept that his role in a ruckus was that of peacemaker. In need of more aggression, Graham Souness brought West Ham's Julian Dix to Liverpool in a swap-shop deal. In return, Hammers took 2 from Anfield and signed the experienced Lee Chapman on the same day. The way Bruce Grobbelaar took issue with Steve McManaman for a mistake in the Mersey derby may just have left the debutant Dix with some late doubts about the move. Everton, 2-0 winners, were quickly brought down to earth, beaten 5-1 at home in the next game by Norwich, with Efena Koku setting a new individual scoring record for the Premier League with 4 goals. The season's last unbeaten record didn't quite last the month, Coventry losing in Game 9 to Leeds, both goals by Rod Wallace. Strike of the month was at Old Trafford. From Ferguson's Frenchman. Manager of the month, though, was Joe Kinnear, the much-respected boss at Wimbledon. A highly spirited 4th place for Wimbledon, 6 points off the leaders. Liverpool down to 13th, Southampton with 1 win, Swindon still hoping.
The only reason I've come on, Willow, is because I noticed a grey-haired gentleman a few weeks ago. He came on and his team went to QPR, played very, very well and got a result, and that was White Walker. So I hope I'm following in his footsteps.
That's the reason you've come in?
Not to see you, Willow, although you are a great mate.
But Coventry lost 5-1 to QPR. In 5 minutes after the match was over, the Premiership would have its second managerial casualty. Bobby Gould resigned. Southampton supporters wanted a third, but found the first to go, Peter Reid, was now one of their players. Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams, became the start of a nightmare for Teddy Sheringham. Spurs would lose him for most of the season. United had been held at home in Europe, but in the league, no one could contain them. Sunday afternoon at the Dell. The beleaguered Ian Brantford had previously left Matthew Le Tissier out of his side. If the idea was to sharpen the appetite, it certainly succeeded. Twice, Newcastle were the sufferers, and when Lee Clark objected to being substituted, we saw a rather different face of Kevin Keegan. But Peter Beardsley, injured pre-season, came back this month, and all would be well. David Batty crossed the Pennines from Leeds to Blackburn. The fee, £2.75 million, which prompted the thought, combien pour Eric?
Cantona. Taking the bypass round McDonald. Look at Giggs in space to his right. Cantona goes in alone. It was a pretty good decision too.
United's lead in the month up from 3 points to 11, with Norwich heading the chasers. A drop for Wimbledon, Manchester City climbing, and still no win for Swindon. The end of a depressing 463 minutes for Arsenal.
Right. Return, yes! At last they've scored a goal. And it had to be Ian Wright, didn't it?
But he couldn't score from 12 yards, becoming another victim of the penalty save expert, Aston Villa's Mark Bosnich. The most expensive goalkeeper was now Tim Flowers, ex-Southampton, the latest million signing by the Jack Walker-funded Rovers of Blackburn, £2.4 million. Money may not guarantee success, but it helps. From 2-0 down, Roy Keane won the Manchester derby for United. And back at Blackburn, there was the man England missed too often in their World Cup failure.
Gallagher. Wright is over this side and is unmarked. There's Shearer! Wonderfully taken goal by Alan Shearer.
On his last weekend as the England manager, Graham Taylor could be forgiven for wondering what might have been. And what if Paul Bodin hadn't missed from the penalty spot for Wales? 3 days later, and a touch lower, he scored one for Swindon, for a point. Winter discontent for Liverpool's Graham Souness. Fun in the snow for Kevin Keegan, as 2 slides and 1 balanced run brought Newcastle 3 goals in half an hour. Andy Cole, a growing menace and hero. John Fashanu was labelled menace and villain. His elbow to the face of Gary Mabbott, leaving the Spurs skipper with a fractured cheekbone and bringing condemnation for the aggression. From now on, every dressing room would carry a PFA health warning. England coach Phil Neal became the manager of Coventry on the day Graham Taylor resigned. Manchester City fans got their way at last. Peter Swales, who would head the committee seeking Taylor's successor, ended his 20-year reign as club chairman. And Swindon won at last, at the 16th attempt. A further 3-point increase in Manchester United's lead, up to 14. And Chelsea have slipped into the bottom 3. For Danny Blanchflower, football was a game for glory, which he played, managed and wrote about with wit, charm and dignity. The captain of the Spurs double team of 1961 died on December the 9th after a long illness. Howard Kendall had defied the dictum, never go back. But now, after 3 years of trying to recapture the success at Everton, he resigned. At Southampton, the banners were becoming increasingly cruel.